Hey everybody, it's Chris with Everything Ham Radio. Today we're going to be talking about the amateur code, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to Everything Ham Radio. My name is Curtis. My call sign is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the amateur code today. But before we get into that, please make sure you click on that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. And don't forget the bell icon as well, so you get notifications on when I publish a new video. Okay, so the amateur code. I have been a ham now for better part of 24 years. And I have never heard of this. And that's honestly, that's kind of sad, because this code was written back in 1928. It was written by Paul Segal, W9EEA, like I said, back in 1928. He was the general counsel, I believe, for the ARRL at the time. So, what is this code? We're going to have to break it down a little bit. I'm going to tell you what they are about, and kind of give you my little thoughts on each area. So, number one, considerate. Never knowingly operate in such a way as to lessen the pleasures of others. Now, I know there's a lot of people on the air, and I know that there are those that intentionally interfere with other amateur radio operators, and that's sad. You know, keying up over them, talking over them, whether it's on HF or whether it's on VHF, UHF, local repeaters, whatever. Intentionally doing it is not what amateur radio is all about. And it actually can get you a fine. So, but consider it number one of the amateur code. Let's be considerate to others as we go about this hobby to make the hobby that much funner for everybody. Okay, number two, loyal. Offer loyalty, encouragement, and support to other amateurs, local clubs, and the ARRL, through which amateur radio in the United States is represented nationally and internationally. Now, loyalty can go a lot of ways. Being loyal to your friends, being loyal to your family, being loyal to other amateur radio operators. Being loyal to them, encourage others, be a good Elmer, things like that. It's not that hard, but we got to do it. And here it is, part of the amateur code. And we don't necessarily do it so much. I've said multiple times on multiple videos that Elmers are either falling to the wayside, they're not helping the new hams, or just not doing it. And this hobby is not getting much younger, and that's another drawback for another video, but I'm not going to go with that. Okay, so number three, progressive. With knowledge abreast of science, as well a well-built and efficient station and operation beyond reproach. Now, unfortunately, this section, there's a lot of hams out there, myself included, that are not following this part of the amateur code. Being progressive, being knowledgeable about what the amateur radio hobby is all about. Nowadays we go out and we buy a radio off the store shelf or over the internet. We don't know how it works. We don't know how to fix it. We don't build kits. We don't build antennas, stuff like that. And unfortunately, that makes it where this hobby is not the same as it used to be. It used to be where you get your license, you build your own radio, you work with that radio, you operate on that radio, and you know how every part of it works. You build your own antennas. You know how to adjust the antenna if you're not getting the best signal or not getting the best SWRs. But there's so many people nowadays that don't know how to do that, and honestly, it's very sad. I've seen a bunch of posts on Reddit, on QRZ, on different places. I actually saw one post that said they were asking he was asking a question as why the electronics components questions on the technician class were asked. That he said that it didn't have anything to do with the hobby anymore, but it does. It so does. You may not be part of that that area of the hobby, but it still does. Building your own radio, building your own antennas, knowing how SWRs work and how Ohm's law works and how resistors and capacitors, inductors, and all that is all part of this hobby. Like I said, it may not be part of how you do it, but it is a fun aspect of this hobby. Building something from scratch with your own two hands and it operating, there's very little things that top that feeling. Okay, number 4, friendly. With slow and patient operation when requested, friendly advice and counsel to the beginner, kindly assistance, cooperation, and consideration of the interests of others. These are the hallmarks of the amateur spirit. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit under loyalty, but being friendly, being the Elmers, helping new hams get set up, helping those that can't figure something out, taking down a tower. When I moved here 3 years ago or so, I had to ask some of my amateur radio friends to come over and help me climb my tower and take it down because I couldn't do it myself. I've never done it. I'm kind of afraid of heights anyways, so I really didn't want to do it. But 2 of my local hams came over and they took it down for me. I mean, I stood on the ground. I passed them tools when they needed it. I carried all, did all the heavy lifting, so to speak, and getting it put up and moved out of the way and stuff like that. But they took down the tower. They helped when I couldn't do it. They were an Elmer to me on how to take down a tower. So, being that Elmer, being that friendly person in a ham radio club or in the ham radio community is something we all need to be. Unfortunately, there are those bad apples in there. I know there is, and unfortunately, it's everywhere. There are going to be those that are going to be sour to you. There are going to be those that are not going to be the friendliest to you. Unfortunately, I've seen more posts than I want to see here recently on why to stay in this hobby when there's people out there that are not welcoming to you, that are not friendly to you. And unfortunately, it's there. And it's there with everywhere, in every hobby, in every profession. It's there. But with the Amateurs Code, we need to get back to being those friendly people. Next up is balanced. Radio is an advocation, never interfering with duties owed to family, job, school, or community. Now this is, how many times have you, and I want you to be honest here, how many times have you gone into your ham shack when you could have been spending time with your family? Taking your kids to the park, putting them to bed, reading them stories, playing games with them. How many times have you stepped away from your family and your family duties to go and talk on your radio? How many times have you left your wife alone or your husband alone to do chores, to do something that you could be doing with them? This hobby it's just that. It's a hobby. And I unfortunately am no different when it comes to this. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I stopped my podcast, it got to the point where I was engrossed in this blog, engrossed in this podcast, and was spending time away from my family. Every at least one day a week, I would have to go out to my ham shack because I had a interview scheduled, and it went with the time that my kids went to bed. So I wasn't there to help put them to bed, to read them stories, to help my wife get them all situated. And I failed on this aspect of the code, of being balanced. Remember, family is first. Your job is first. So make sure that you make sure you find your balance. Don't let ham radio totally rule your life. Next up, Patriotic. With stations and skills always ready for service to country and community. Now, this part of it here, being patriotic, is not only things like, during national disasters or during a Skywarn event or something along those lines, but it's also doing a parade, doing a bike race, doing some kind of community event, providing communications, which is what this hobby is all about. Being there and helping out is what we as hams need to remember and do. And like I said, this is part of the amateur code. But anyways, that is the amateur code. So let me know what you think about it. Have you ever heard of the amateur code? I'm going to put a link in the description of this video of an infograph or a Word document that you can print out, download it for free, and print this out, put this on your wall. Help you to remember what the amateur code is all about. Anyways, check out the link below. In the meantime, wait for my next video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you get notifications, and check out one of these videos that I have wherever I'm going to put it at. Check out one of these videos and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the amateur code. And until next time, y'all, we'll see you later. 73.